you for coming today to share how you have overcome an obstacle. What obstacle did you overcome in your life that you will be sharing with us today?
Oh, many. Should I just start with my story?
Yes, you can.
My name's Mary Elizabeth, and I had a nickname of Betty, and I was born in 1934. And so I went to school during the war years. I figured that out, World War II. And I had an interesting home life, and so I loved to read. And that was my salvation. I read a great deal. And went, to Battle Creek, Verona, WK, Battle Creek Central. And Otha McCracken was my counselor then. And she said, well, you're going to the University of Michigan. And I said, that's how it was done, no trauma. And so I did win a Regents Scholarship to U of M. But I came from a family I didn't know much about it. Fortunately, I had been guided into a college prep sequence by a student that said, what are you doing in general math? You should be in algebra. And with that switch, it bumped me into a different line. And so I was there. I thought everything was fine. I went to U of M and discovered then that the scholarship was just for tuition and books, not for room and board. Big revelation. That's an obstacle. And I had enough money to pay for one semester. And I had also picked nursing for the dumbest reason. I really wanted to leave Battle Creek. And so I thought, well, I'll become an airline stewardess. But you had to be 21. And I thought, well, I'll fill in with those years, by just going to school. And nursing sounded like a good idea. The options for women were getting married, nursing, secretary, or teaching. And that was about it, really. Those were your options. They didn't have you thinking any further than those. And I also had a boyfriend, and he wanted to get married and so on. And I discovered one thing at Ann Arbor, that I left early in the morning and didn't come back until late at night, where the people that were majoring in English or history or other things seemed to have all this free time. I had 3 labs, my zoology lab and chemistry lab and on, and then even for they gave a little thing on nursing. And so the end result, but I thought, well, I'll plug through, but it was very earth-shaking to me. My folks didn't have the money for another semester, and my daughter, bless her heart, she said, well, Mother, why didn't you go to financial aid? There was no financial aid, period, and that I knew about. So I quit U of M, came home, and knew I'd made a big mistake, though. I even called a psychiatrist on the phone, and he said, talk to your mother, and I thought, the last person that I would talk to. And I got married, had 4 children, and then KCC opened up a little bit later. An obstacle sometimes turns out to be the right thing. And I became a teacher, and so on. So do you have any questions?
I do. What year did you start going?
First library card when you could print your name when I was, I think, 4 or 5 at Willard Library, and I've always had one ever since. And the irony, I stayed right in Battle Creek. My husband had a job at Kellogg Company. He was a chemist, and so on. So even things that you think might be obstacles aren't necessarily obstacles. Any other questions, Sue?
Yes. Did you feel pressured to be a nurse from the people around you, or?
No, I didn't. It was, see, I was just filling time so I could apply for an airline stewardess, because then I could, and I thought, thank God I'm not, that I never turned, into that. So, but that was when I was, remember, 18, 16, 17, 18. I met my husband when I was 16, or, that I eventually married. We went together for 2 years. So on. He graduated from college when I graduated from high school. And he put pressure on me to quit, come home and get married, etc. But that worked out. I didn't have many options. So.
You said you started going PCC when they first.
I think they started maybe in, I can't remember when it was, several years. And so I thought, I can take night classes in there. And when Jeff got in kindergarten, I took a couple of night classes. And I really liked it. I thought Last Chance was written over the door, and I really enjoyed it. My first class was English, of course, and I liked it. And I used to drive home, peel out of the parking lot and get home for the school bus. And then junior and senior years. And then I did some student teaching and did my teaching at Lakeview, student apprentice type teaching there. And I was offered a job there, which was all right, but I also got a fellowship about 32 years.
Do you remember all the places that you taught at?
Well, I went to one junior high, and I was a traveling teacher, and that was interesting. And that worked out. So, kind of getting back to the times, my mother graduated in 1913, and you might like to look at these later, but there she is. And it was the first graduating class in the new Central building, and it had a planetarium, and it was considered, to be the class. And then how you look then. And the hairstyles. I think it might be fun for you to look later at these. But to tie it to the book Night, you see, as I said, I was going to school during the war years, and 10 and 44, and then in 45. And we saw a lot of no TV then, but we got our news. I well know of concentration camps, that they did exist. It was horrible. And later on, when I was teaching, I ended up teaching at KCC, and I had a student, Ingeborg, who came over as a German war bride. And she was she lived in Marshall for a long time, married a doctor. Well, he was a doctor. And she came over as a war bride. And her mother-in-law forbade her to speak German to her children, so they never became bilingual. But she told me how really easy, Germany was a well-educated nation and so on. But once and the news, that's why when I hear reporters and journalists disparaged, I get really upset about it. But thank heavens you have a wide variety. I don't go on Facebook ever, though. I knew better. I was not going to go there, but yeah, do you have any other?
Yeah, do you remember what it was like just during school or at your own home? Like, what was it like with the war going on?
Yes, we had rationing, and we got books of stamps and little coins, like they were cardboard. And I remember that there was a severe bubble gum shortage, and we used to line up around the block at little corner grocery stores to buy bubble gum. But that didn't affect me too much, really, though there was rationing, gas rationing. And so people, didn't drive, pleasure drive at all. We took the bus a lot. And let's see, what else, anything that would, a red bordered flag with a blue star, if they were still alive, they were in service, because the draft took a lot of people. And then the gold star for those that had died. And I remember in high school, I think it was junior high or high school, Paul Tammy was playing, he started to play My Buddy, and the kids just streamed out. And he realized what he'd done, and he stopped the band and started playing a march or some other song, because they had all lost, fathers, brothers, cousins, uncles, aunts, and so on. So from there, it was good. Not good, but very revealing. It does impact.
Do you know anyone who was impacted by the war or died in the war?
No, because my brother, fortunately, had an eye injury and he was blind in one eye, so he was 4F. But I got a lot of questions about why my brother wasn't in service, but the minute I was acceptable. So, but the neighbor, that's why I remember the kids storming out, and that the little girl I used to play with across the street, my grandma didn't have anything that wasn't Social Security or anything. And we kind of all lived, my grandpa had been a printer. And when the Depression really hit, and it lasted really for a long time, a lot of people didn't have jobs, money. There was no social net problem in the family when, because my brother had gotten a bow and arrow for Christmas, I guess. And my dad said nobody should string that bow unless they are with him. And my grandfather strung it for him, and he went across the street to play in the playground. There was nobody there at the time. So how could anything bad happen? But an older boy came by and nobody knew and took it away from him. And he started to cry, and so he said, well, here's your arrow. And he shot it, and it went in his eye. And he didn't mean that, it was one of those accidents. But that kind of split it up. My father did find work in New York and left. And at the same time I was born, my brother was 8 years older. And so my mother worked where most mothers didn't. And my grandma took care of me. And my brother lived there. So it was kind of unsettled then. And my grandpa died. And different funeral, they were laid out in a bedroom of the home. And so on. So the Depression did impact for a long time. The lack of, money, nobody had jobs. And my grandma was very worried about losing her money and what would happen and so on, because she had money in the old security, it was called Merchants Bank, Security National Bank, one of the tall towers, the one that's being renovated and closing the street now. And they closed and she couldn't get her money out. So she carefully would save what money she could get for her burial and things. And are we end of time?
Storage. You're not recording anymore.
You're out of time.
Yeah. It should already be on, but we need our phone now.
This is actually working out well.
I thought storage full. You do not have enough storage to record video. Sorry.
Is it interesting at all to you?
Oh yeah,
Yes.
absolutely.
I have a lot of notes on it. I'm just like,
Mhm.
wow.
I'm gonna stop this.